have to do. We only have a few minutes before the meeting begins, and I understand we have a full house, and we're happy to have you all here, but we do have some business to take care of. May I please have a motion from council to come out of executive session?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
I heard a lot of so moves.
And a lot of seconds.
I'm going to go with Mr. McClure as the motion, first motion, and Ms. Hatley as the second. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Our meeting will begin in 4 minutes. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you. We're happy to have you all with us here this morning. Thank you for joining us. We would ask you to please silence your cell phones. Make sure that your ringers are off and that your phones are silenced. And if you would please rise if you wish and join council for today's invocation and pledge of allegiance.
If you wish, you may join City Council in standing for a moment of silent invocation. Almighty God, Creator and Sustainer, all that is or will ever be, accept our profound gratitude for this day and all its blessings of life and freedom. We remember those who make our freedom possible and recognize it as because of their sacrifice that our community can practice our shared and enduring values of varied expressions of faith, civic duty, and respect for all. We gather today to render our public service in a proper manner, perform our civic duties in good order. Therefore, we solemnly invoke divine wisdom and guidance in this day's meeting. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on today's agenda, we know that many of you are here for two agenda items related to the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. I'm going to ask for a motion to amend today's agenda to take ordinance 2025-37 and 2025-38 and move those to the first two items on our regular agenda. That way we don't have to bore you with our other business and you can get about your day. I will ask council for a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 27th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Dr. Connor, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. And may I also have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 3rd, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Chestnut, second from Ms. Hatley. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Okay, our first proclamation this morning is for the Grand Strand Amateur Radio Club.
Good morning, everybody. We have two proclamations on the agenda today that we have done for quite some time every year. The first one is the Amateur Radio Week, declaring Amateur Radio Week 2025. Whereas amateur radio operators are celebrating more than a century of the miracle of the human voice broadcast over the airwaves. And whereas the City of Myrtle Beach recognizes the valuable contributions of amateur radio operations, commonly known as hams, who volunteer in their communities during emergencies, public events, and natural disasters. And whereas these operators provide communication support when other systems fail, using their training, equipment, and knowledge to assist emergency response teams, the National Weather Service, and disaster relief organizations. And whereas the Grand Strand Amateur Radio Club and similar organizations across the country will participate in the annual Amateur Radio Relay League, ARRL Field Day exercise, June 28th through 29th, 2025, to highlight amateur radio's role in emergency preparedness. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City of Myrtle Beach hereby recognizes and thanks our local amateur radio operators for their vital services to our community, especially in times of disaster, and further proclaims the week of June 23rd through 29th, 2025, as Amateur Radio Week in the City of Myrtle Beach. Signed and sealed this 10th day of June, 2025. Thank you very much. And to have a member of the Grand Strand Amateur Radio Club here today.
Welcome.
My name is Todd Rush. I'm the president of the Grand Strand Amateur Radio Club. For those of you that have been here a couple of years, you've seen me before. I want to thank all members of City Council and your staffs. I especially want to thank Scott Wishart from the Fire Department. He is now the new emergency coordinator for amateur radio, and through his expertise in the Fire Department, we have increased our training and our capabilities for this coming hurricane season and hopefully the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I have Terry Livingston and Adam Hayes from our Human Rights Commission joining me to declare June 2025 as Pride Month in Myrtle Beach. Whereas the City of Myrtle Beach values the rights of every citizen and visitor to live free from discrimination in a welcoming and inclusive community. And whereas Myrtle Beach recognizes and embraces our diverse heritage and our many individual backgrounds as a critical component of a successful, vibrant community. And whereas our community is made stronger by the contributions of LGBTQ+ individuals from all backgrounds and walks of life, including those who have worked to ensure that everyone has the freedom to live openly and authentically. And whereas Pride Month is a platform for raising awareness of the discrimination and marginalization that the LGBTQ+ community has faced and continues to face, and for supporting their rights and achievements. And whereas the City of Myrtle Beach recognizes the importance of supporting the LGBTQ+ community and is dedicated to ensuring that everyone is empowered to live freely and achieve their greatest potential. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Myrtle Beach City Council hereby designates June 2025 as Pride Month and encourages citizens to recognize, celebrate, and accept the ongoing efforts and contributions of the LGBTQ+ community by building a culture of inclusiveness and acceptance. Signed and sealed this 10th day of June 2025.
Thank you, Mayor Brenda, City Council, and City staff for this Pride Month proclamation. 41 years ago, when I started my career in public accounting in the small town of Greenwood, South Carolina, I wish encouraging words like this proclamation were around. Instead of being proud, I allowed fear to take constant control. Fear of being fired from my job, fear of what others would think of me, even fear of being harmed. This in turn leads to having to lie about yourself. Even a simple question at work on a Monday morning like, what did you do over the weekend? Well, I couldn't say, I had a great weekend. I went to visit my boyfriend. So the cover-ups began and they just kept growing. But now, as most of you know, I have no problem proudly saying I am married to my boyfriend of 41 years. So please let this proclamation be a reminder that the city is resolved to ensuring the rights of not only the LGBTQ+ community, but every citizen and visitor to live free of discrimination and to achieve their greatest potentials. And should anyone ever think the city has fallen short of this goal, please bring it to the attention of the Human Rights Commission. On Thursday, June 26th, Grand Strand Pride is celebrating Equality Day, the day several important Supreme Court decisions were announced which advanced equality for the LGBTQ+ community. So please come celebrate LGBTQ+ inclusion with Grand Strand Pride at Nance Plaza from 3 to 9 p.m., including our straight friends, as you are the plus. Enjoy music, exhibitors, food and drinks, and more. There's even a wedding occurring in the park in celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Obergefell decision. Admission to the park is free. And finally, did you know the pride flag became the symbol of the gay community in 1978? The colors of the 6 colored striped flag symbolize red for life, orange for healing, yellow for sunlight, green for nature, blue for harmony, purple for spirit. Again, thank you all, and happy Pride.
Thank you, Terry. I don't know if Patrick can hear me in the sound booth. Apparently, can the audience hear any of the speakers at the microphone? Okay, so you're getting sound? On televised? Okay, so apparently we have some issues with sound on the live feed. Okay, thank you. All right, it's time for our communications and creative services update.
Hey City Council, Patrick Lloyd here with your communications update. Thank you to all our hardworking crews who made Carolina Country Music Fest happen. Tens of thousands of people came to the ocean front for the music festival that celebrated its 10th year in Myrtle Beach. The city's Juneteenth celebration is coming up at Charlie's Place from 2 to 8 p.m. on June 14th. One thing to note, it'll only be the celebration, no parade this year. Catch musical performances from the 100 Grand Band, live in the flesh, and more. Bring your lawn chair and enjoy the fun. Juneteenth, which is Thursday, June 19th, is a city holiday. All offices and recreation centers will be closed. However, for city residents, solid waste pickup will be your regularly scheduled day. You know, we all hate the H word, but we have to say it now that it's June. It is officially hurricane season, so now is a good time to give you a reminder to sign up for MB Alerts. These alerts will help keep you informed when a hurricane is on the way and after it hits. You can find the link to sign up on the Emergency Management Division's page on cityofmyrtlebeach.com. Congratulations to engineer Frank Osorio from the fire department for retiring. After 18 years with the city, he celebrated his retirement at the end of May. The Planning and Zoning Department needs your help. As the city updates the population element of our comprehensive plan, we need resident feedback through a survey. You can find the link for the survey on the Myrtle Beach City Government Facebook page. Looking to escape the heat? Swing by the Art Museum to visit the Art Field's Winners Collection through September 21st. The exhibit features all kinds of work from skilled artists that were originally part of Art Fields in Lake City. And a reminder that all summer beach laws are now in effect through Labor Day. That means no dogs on the beach between 10 and 5, dogs and bikes are only allowed on the boardwalk between 5 and 10 a.m., and only circular umbrellas up to 7.5 feet in diameter are allowed. Check out the city's beach rules and regulations on the Beach Rules page here on the city's website. That's all for now. Hope you have a great rest of your week.
All right, thank you. We'll now move on to non-agenda items from the public. Many of you did sign up to speak. These are only about non-agenda items. So if any of you signed up to speak on behalf or against the Pelicans, those will be done during those two agenda items, not at this time. Madam Clerk?
Frank Nesbitt.
Mr. Nesbitt, would you please, for the record, just state your name and your address, please?
My name is Frank Nesbitt, 1313 Hemingway Street, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 29577.
Thank you.
I'm here today on behalf of the community. Okay, now, I'm not here about the new improvement. I'm here about our community. Okay, now, we recognize Mr. Chestnut as being the only black city councilman, and he's been a good city councilman, and we love him for that. But there has been no change in our community. Our community. Now, yeah, we give y'all the Country Music Award and all this great stuff around us. But Madam Mayor, I have in my possession, okay, the old way. Things were good doing the old way. At least we got something, but today we'll get nothing, okay? Now, Mr. Chestnut don't get the recognition in which it's not a whole lot of, you can count your hands on the black folks that are out there, okay? but at least we know he's here, and he's not getting ready to retire. We will put somebody there in that seat that will not be able to boss around, okay? Now, Mr. Chestnut has been good to everybody, and I commend him for that. What I'm here to say, Mr. Fox, okay? Yeah, I know of Mr. Fox. He was here today to say the hiding. His hair was black then, but it's gray now, okay? It has not been an easy go for Mr. Fox. Now, I don't know, some of y'all, even some lady, the deputy clerk, I was here when she got hired, okay? So there are a few people that know me, and there's gonna be a whole lot of people remember me. But what I'm saying to y'all is just this. The only thing, you got Charlie's place, and then y'all made us believe that the Jazz Festival was gonna support the black community. Now, all of a sudden, it's going across the street. We worked our behinds off to just have something to come back to the community. All we asked was a little jazz festival. Now, all of a sudden, it's gone. We got nothing else for y'all to take. You can't get the land because we're not giving it up like that. We're not just going to lose it like that. We'll fight you to the day we die. All we're asking for is just something. So, if I offended anybody or hurt anybody's feelings, you can't get me. Because my daddy worked for the city for 64 years. My grandfather worked for Children Birth for 75 years. And the only thing that left me was alone. But today, I'm backed by this man, the United States government, okay? So, ain't no sense you coming after me. Miss Fanny Brown left me some property on the hill between the funeral home and the Goins. She left it with the concern of the kids. I come across 3 little kids, 10, 9, and 12. Got nowhere to go, no place. Y'all don't care. I say, y'all, time's up. Hey,
Yes, sir.
You got lucky. My time ran out. Because I sure had a lot to tell you. I appreciate it. The people of the black community, they also appreciate it, okay? Because I had it for you. Talking that noise, I'll get to you. Call me. Nice seeing you again, Mr. Fox.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I realize there are a lot of people here today for a lot of different reasons. We are not going to be clapping in council chambers. There's no booing in council chambers. We're here to have a respectful and civil meeting. Is that understood? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Alex Vogel.
Good morning.
Alex Vogel, 309 4th Avenue North. You're all going to be discussing and voting on a lot of things very important to the city today, a number of different issues. And I've heard various members of you say that you pay a lot of attention to the communications you get from the community when you're making those decisions and, discussing what is best for the city. But I want to give you another reality, and that is that when you don't hear from people, it's not because they're apathetic. It's because they trust you. They trust all of you to put needs ahead of wants, to keep your priorities straight, and to do what's best for the city. Don't let that trust be misplaced today, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Pamela. Last name starts with a B. Baxter.
Take your time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Pamela Baxter, formerly Pamela Ray. I am very proud to be a local girl. Born and raised here at the beach, graduate of Conway High School, Coastal Carolina University, worked in the service industry, have had lots of careers here. And as a local girl, I want to thank the City Council and Mayor Brenda Bethune. Let me just put it this way. I am a lesbian, and I am proud of it. I was born this way, and I'm proud of it. Equality is a human right. Love knows no boundaries. And here's to being visible, vocal, and proud. And I just want to wish you all a happy Pride Month. From my heart, thank you so much. One thing that I've hoped for many years would be a visible statement by the City of Myrtle Beach. I am a former member of the Human Rights Commission. And some of the ideas, and I'm just going to throw them out to you, we would appreciate it so much if there could be one landmark, just one landmark that identifies the city as a welcoming community to the LGBTQ plus community. Some of the things we talked about was a rainbow-colored crosswalk. Perhaps maybe a sign off of the downtown 501 area that indicates that we are part of the community and visitors and their dollars are welcome here in the city of Myrtle Beach. I do apologize, I forgot to give my address. I am at 1211 Hadley Circle, 4414 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 29577. I'm going to end this with a quote from Martin Luther King, Jr. "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." And with that, the arc's a little bent, but we have faith that people will do the right thing. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of the community's hearts that are representing us here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Edward H.
And I'm going to remind anyone who speaks from the podium, please move the microphone so that you can be heard on the live stream. Thank you.
I'm Edward Huff, 3862 Camden Drive, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We as gay communities are here to stay, and we are here. We are community members, live productive lives, just as everyone else who chooses to. We did not ask to be born gay, we simply are that. It is just like an addict didn't ask to be an addict. We are created by the same God, whether you believe in one or not. Yet we seem to be outcasted and stoned. But who can or should cast the first stone? The answer is no one. Whatever happens, happen to equal rights. We work for our salaries, pay taxes, and our cash is just spendable as any other person, whether gay or not. I feel the city of Myrtle Beach should do a lot more for our gay communities and other unfortunates. If this city can honor the events and recognize during the years, then why can't they recognize the gay community with just equal planned events? Why not vote for a gay person of any color who truly represents the community to be in a policy table, and better yet, install digital signs that at least say Myrtle Beach welcomes Pride? Take the instance of the city of Conway. It's not ashamed of their community members, so why is the city of Myrtle Beach, or is it just homophobic hatred? This month may be labeled Pride, but there is no outstanding evidence of pride for the gay community within Myrtle Beach except the planned ones. An evening held on the 26th for a few hours. That's sadly sad, indeed. Inclusion, I pray, and understanding of our point of view, and truly see that we are no different than any other average Joe or Jane. We are just more colorful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we will move on to today's consent agenda, please.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. For this morning's consent agenda, you have 5 items for your consideration. The first is second reading of ordinance 2025-39, granting a franchise agreement for the operation of rental business of conveyances regulated by Chapter 12, Article 5 of the Code of Ordinances of Myrtle Beach to Brittany B. Lee, doing business as Beach Golf Cart Rentals and Sales, LLC, located at 609 South Kings Highway, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 29577, for a period of 1 year. The agreement includes 95 golf cart decals and 20 moped decals. The second item is second reading of ordinance 2025-40, granting a franchise agreement for operation of rental business of conveyances regulated by Chapter 12, Article 5 of the Code of Ordinances of Myrtle Beach to Brittany B. Lee, doing business as Beach Golf Cart Rentals and Sales, LLC, located at 412 6th Avenue North, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 29577, for a period of 1 year. The agreement includes 34 golf cart decals and 5 moped decals. The next item is second reading of ordinance 2025-41, granting a franchise agreement for operation of rental business of conveyance regulated by Chapter 12, Article 5 of the Code of Ordinances of Myrtle Beach to Brittany B. Lee, doing business as Beach Golf Cart Rentals and Sales, LLC, located at 713 North Ocean Boulevard, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 29577, for a period of 1 year. The agreement includes 30 golf cart decals and 5 moped decals. The next is motion 2025-43 to approve a mutual aid agreement between the City of Myrtle Beach and the Coastal Carolina University Police Department to support law enforcement services throughout the city during events and special events. It's a 2-year agreement. And I believe this is the last one, is motion 2025-44, authorizing the city to apply for a grant in the amount of $1,112,598 from the Horry County Transportation Committee through SCDOT for the purpose of resurfacing roadways. There is a local match of $1,485,000 in the city's capital improvement fund to be used for resurfacing roads in FY26.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve today's consent agenda items?
Second.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Ms. Hatley. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Moving on to our regular agenda, which we did amend. Our first item on the regular agenda will be the second reading of ordinance 2025-37.
Second reading of ordinance 2025-37, authorizing the city manager to negotiate the terms of the acquisition of Horry County's interest in the land and improvements constituting the Myrtle Beach Pelican Stadium and matters thereto.
Good morning again. 2027 and 2025-38 are items that go together, and they deal with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. The first item, 2020-37, is the conveyance of property from the county to the city for $8.25 million. And the second item is the 30-year lease with the Pelicans. On the screen, and I know Meredith has some handouts for the public, is a financial spreadsheet. I'll kind of walk you through. This is the financial aspects of this arrangement. First item I want to bring to your attention is the rental rate. The rental rate for the first 10 years of this lease would be $750,000. The second 10 years, from years 11 through 20, will be $850,000, and 21 through 30 will be $950,000. This sheet you have in front of you assumes there would be a long-term debt issuance of $9 million with the one-time use of some settlement monies from Airbnb and VRBO. That is a decision that council will make at some point. You can give us direction today, or at some point in the future. We could use $5 million, we could use 0. That is entirely up for conversation. This analysis assumes $5 million is being used. So if that $5 million is being used, we then factor in the $6 million coming from Horry County, and the city would issue a $9 million debt note. That debt would be annual payment for 20 years at amortization of about $768,000 to $769,000 annually for 20 years at a 5.75% interest rate. I know we're working with our financial advisors to work on that. It may come down, and it will be affected by whether we use one-time monies or not. So going down further on that, the annual operations that we spend is about $300,000 a year. We have an inflationary factor in there of a modest 2% going forward, and then you have the debt instrument. And so all told, at $750,000 in FY '27, which I'm looking at, would be a $298,000 funding gap between revenues and expenses. However, when you factor in what the Pelicans provide in terms of hospitality tax and tourism taxes to the city for their operations, they generate about $200,000 annually. We have verified that, and it's in the ballpark, no pun intended, of that number. So you factor in that amount of revenue into this equation, the subsidy goes down to about $95,000 to $100,000 annually. That takes care of the operation. There's another part of this that everyone talks about is the capital improvements that are required at the stadium. We have factored in about $15.5 million we call it SKA capital. Those are capital improvements to the structure. We have to do those, but those don't have to be done right away. We can manage that through time. With cooperation and working with the team and our staff, we through the lease are committed to get together around January 1st of every year to see what needs to be done and how best to tackle it. But there's about 15.5 there that we have to do. And last week at County Council, they amended their resolution and added another $2.25 million for a combined $8,250,000 contribution. $6 million would go to the PDL improvements, which is what I talked about earlier, and this 2.25 would go to these capital improvements that I'm talking about now. This deal also includes a per-ticket seat fee, and there's an estimate down there of what that will generate. It's not a lot the first 5 years because of the deal that doesn't apply to Pelican home games until year 5 or 6, beginning of year 6, and that's where the revenue increases, and it's $1 and then goes up to $1.50 after time and that. Those are the major deal points. Happy to try to answer any questions. The one thing I do want to mention is that all of this is being proposed to be funded through hospitality tax or admissions, accommodations tax or accommodations fees, and property taxes are not factored into this at all. So residents and businesses' property taxes would not go to fund any of this.
Fox, what are hospitality taxes supposed to be used for?
Tourism type stuff. Convention centers, baseball stadiums, parks, Savannah's Playground, roadways. We can use them to offset salaries, like police on the beach, those types of activities.
I'm gonna ask you, might sound like a rhetorical question, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. Hospitality tax, any tax money that we have is taxpayers' money.
Correct.
Okay.
It is.
So
But
it's
property,
not-
there's a difference between property tax and,
I understand,
but you are right.
it is taxpayers' money.
Yes, sir, I know that. Fox, I have a question about the seat fee. Can you just clarify, and maybe you did in your comments, what those funds will be used for?
They would go to offset the capital expenses.
All right, our first motion is the second reading of ordinance 2025-37. May I please have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Smith, second from Dr. Connor. And again, this is authorizing the city manager to negotiate the terms of the acquisition of Horry County's interest in the land and improvements constituting the Myrtle Beach Pelican Stadium and matters related thereto. Is there any discussion or questions from council?
Well, we're authorizing him to negotiate it, but what's happened is it's already been negotiated from 0 to 6 million to 8.25 million. Is that correct?
Correct.
Sorry. That is correct.
Sorry. Yes.
That's correct, yes. Anything else from council? Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, any discussion from you, please needs to be very civil. And again, no clapping. Do we have any communication or discussion from the public?
Alex Fogel again. Last time I asked and was told it was too complicated, but I can't see how complicated it is. The stadium and its land should have an appraised value. And if the county's gonna be giving us 30% that they own, okay, what is that value the county's actually giving us?
Thank you for asking that. Actually, I forgot to mention that. The value of the land is being estimated at $2 million. 30% of their ownership is $2 million.
Anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Grace, and I'm the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of the Grand Strand. And I want to speak on behalf of the Myrtle Beach Pelicans on how we've partnered with them and what they've done for us at the Boys and Girls Club. I came in contact with the Pelicans organization last November at our Champions of Youth dinner that we have every year, our annual fundraiser, where I met Ryan Moore, who works for the organization. And he said to me that anything that his organization could do for the Boys and Girls Club, please let him know. And since I've been in my position, of course, we meet a lot of people who say, hey, I'll do this, I'll do that, and nothing ever really happens. But I called him up on it one day, and I told him what I needed, and he told me to come right down. We wanted to hold a cotillion for our kids at our Boys and Girls Club, and it would cost a lot that we did not have. And so I told him my ideas and my thoughts, and he said that he would help us in any way and brought his whole team in. Not only did he bring his whole team in, they footed the bill for it. July 12th, we will be having our Guys and Ties, Girls and Pearls Cotillion for 20 of our teams, 10 boys and 10 girls, and those families really didn't have to pay anything, and nor did the Boys and Girls Club. And it would be a fundraiser to help us sustain. And because of the Pelicans, those kids will get an experience that they would not have been able to have. Not only that, they footed everything. They've bought the dance floor out. They bought the entertainment. They bought the decorations. I mean, the food, everything that you can think of that would cost us majorly, the Pelicans have taken care of. And I thank them for that. Not only that, Ryan Moore is a member of our board. He graciously accepted and came on to help us. Not only that, they employ our students in the summertime. So they do a lot for our community. And not only do they do a lot for our community, they are committed to the Boys and Girls Club. And I just want to, just say that they are needed in our community. And our kids would not have some experiences that they would have without them. They get to go to baseball games and for free. And basically, I appreciate them. I appreciate their support. And hopefully they'll be able to stay around for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Any other discussion from the public? I think you're at the next one. You listen very well, Ryan Moore. Okay, any other discussion related to this agenda item? Is it pertaining to the issue with Horry County, sir? Okay, please come forward. I understand it's confusing because there are two agenda items that relate to this issue. How are you today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Eric Blomquist, 4265 Greystone Court, Little River, 29566. And I'm not from Myrtle Beach. I don't come down here often, except to the Pelicans game. I just want to make sure you keep in mind that we are spending dollars down here, even though we don't live down here, that you wouldn't otherwise get. My wife and I, as well as our friends, we're in the same position. You know, we come down here and always go out to dinner, sometimes something after the game, and do other activities, sometimes make a whole day of it when we wouldn't normally come down here. So besides what's being spent at the ballpark, there's a lot of other money going into the area. Just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. Ma'am, we can't speak from back there. If you'd like to come forward? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward, state your name and your address.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Council. Ellen Sheehan, and I own property at 502 20th Avenue North in North Myrtle Beach, Horry County. I am a resident of Ocean Isle Beach, and I also own a vacation rental property there. When we moved to Ocean Isle Beach, we vacationed here for over 30 years. And one of my favorite memories was to bring my children to a baseball game. They planned, that's what they did, and we retired here. And I want the council to think about the ripple effect of not having the Pelicans. I drive from Ocean Isle Beach to take photos. I'm a professional sports photographer, and I have photographed many teams throughout minor league baseball, okay? I have photographed the Houston Astros AAA team, the Space Cowboys. Why they call them the Space Cowboys, we don't know. But my job was to get photos with not empty seats. That's pretty difficult in a lot of minor league baseball teams, okay? It's never an issue with the Pelicans. I can take a shot from any place. The ripple effect, the advertising. I own a car that I just purchased from Sparks. I drove all the way from Ocean Isle Beach. Why? Sparks supports the fireworks show. And I got a fabulous photo of it, and I will say I did bargain with them. Okay? It got me put to the head of the line to get a car, okay? The ripple effect. I bring in camera groups. I bring in about 100 people to the stadium from all across both states. Why? Because it's a fun thing to do. Now, they don't like it that we don't always eat at the stadium when we come in. We eat at the local restaurants. If that disappears, so much of the economy, the atmosphere will be gone. It'll be lost from Myrtle Beach. Councilman Chestnut, I heard your invocation. Everything you stated in your invocation is exactly what the Pelicans stand for. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have that?
Just Ryan Moore left over.
Okay. Ryan, I'm still going to put you next. Okay, there being no more discussion regarding the second reading of ordinance 2025-37, we will call for a vote by a show of hands, please. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. All those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Moving on to the second reading of ordinance 2025-38.
Second reading of ordinance 2025-38 to approve the execution and delivery by the City of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, of an agreement of lease between the City of Myrtle Beach as landlord and Myrtle Beach Pelicans LP as tenant with respect to the Pelican Stadium.
Okay, Mr. Simons already went through these details with us. Let's get a motion on the table, and then we will have discussion. May I please have a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2025-38?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Dr. Connor, second from Mr. Smith. Any discussion from council?
Yeah, so, Mayor, I spent quite a bit of time, I think all of us have had quite a bit of time to review information, and I specifically last night wrote down a couple of key points I thought was really important, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in some places in regards to this. So the Pelicans, for the last several years, their first several years, they paid no rent because they were recruited to come here. And then they were paying $150,000 a year. So this new contract has them starting out at $750,000 a year. That's a big increase in their rent. Then increasing for the next 10 to $850,000, then to $950,000. So over the course of 30 years, just in rent payments, that's $25.5 million that we collect just in rent. Then you think about was mentioned the ticket fee that's going to go to capital improvements. That's another estimated $10.4 million over the course of 30 years. And then there is the person that had just come up, talked about ripple effect and thinking 250 plus jobs in our city. The Cubs spend annually about $730,000. The expenditures of the Pelicans, and this has been something that has really, I've heard a lot from small business owners who contract with the Pelicans, and they spend around $2.2 million a year with other businesses in our community. Again, our tax revenue is, I calculated about $195,000, so close to $200,000 annually. And then they also, with this, are offering discounted tickets for Myrtle Beach city residents and free parking for city residents. And then we heard from United Way last week and hearing from Boys and Girls Club today, the Pelicans have given $3.3 million to local charities in their time here. I see that only continuing and increasing. That doesn't include the man and woman time that they have spent investing in our community. So my thought, and I haven't always been, it's taken me a while to get to this place, but I think from where we have been to where we are going, that this is, the Pelicans being in our community is a good decision for our city, and I'm happy to support it today.
Thank you for that very thorough discussion. Well done. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would say that I am also happy to support the Pelicans today. And what Dr. Connor said was much more eloquent than what I've been saying all along. But, if we didn't have a stadium here, if we didn't have a stadium here, if we didn't have the Pelicans here, I might have a different opinion of what we should do. But we have the Pelicans here. We have the stadium here. If we don't have the Pelicans, we will still have a stadium that needs to be taken care of or torn down. I don't want to see that happen. I feel like letting the Pelicans go would be a huge mistake. And I've said it before that we had a baseball team before. We let them go. 5 years later, we were spending, at the time it was $25 million, I think, to build a new stadium, to lure somebody here on a lease that was way more beneficial to the team than it was to the city. If we let the Pelicans go, 5, 6, 7 years from now, we are going to be building a new stadium for $100+ million to lure a team here because we're going to realize what we did. The Pelicans are here. Yes, it costs money to keep them here, but the benefits we get from having the team here far outweigh the cost.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
I would point out to you also, as Mr. Simons when he reviewed the spreadsheet that you have up here. Even when you account for tax revenues, tax stuff, other things that are associated with the Pelicans and being generated, we're still going to have a net loss of about $100,000 a year in the first 10 years. We talked about the other part of the money, which is basically required maintenance, and just as you would require in your own home. You know, you need a roof from time to time. There are things that have to be replaced. And in this business, you look at it ahead of time. You need to know about what you need to save for. But the one thing I do know is that construction costs and replacement costs never, ever go down. So what we have are guesstimates. The other side of that, too, is that while we are relating a lot of our shortfall to things that the Pelicans are associated with generating, we've never done that for any other business that I'm aware of. And every business here generates something. So at the end of the day, we're really going to have a net loss in the first 10 years of a little over $200,000 a year. I think that's concerning to a lot of our residents, and I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. Anyone else on council? I would like to say, I think I've made it clear in other meetings, my support for this team because of what they bring to this community, and I believe that Dr. Connor, as Greg said, did say it very eloquently, but thoroughly, is the ripple effect. I don't believe that there will be a net loss when you look at the ripple effect, funds coming into the city from restaurants being supported and other businesses. I've said before that we invest money in a library, in multiple parks, in recreation centers, and we do that not because we're going to get a return on our investment. We do those things because it's about creating a quality of life for our residents, for our businesses, and for our visitors. We do it because it's the right thing to do, and that's how I feel about this. We are going to open this up to the public at this time. We have, I think, Ryan Moore next, and we actually have our new chamber CEO is here today, Mr. Matt Pavarnik. And Matt, I'm putting you on the spot, but I would also like to hear your thoughts on this because you've been to other markets who have teams. But Ryan, why don't you come up? You defer to Matt. Matt, would you come up, please, and just share with us? And I'm sorry to just put this on you last minute, but I'm sure you can handle it.
Well, this is my 3-week anniversary, and it's also my first time addressing you all, so I don't want to blow my clock, and I'll be very careful. Let me just start by telling you that I absolutely love baseball. I played college baseball, and this is a pretty big baseball week in Horry County and in Myrtle Beach, as Coastal Carolina is heading to Omaha tomorrow to play in the College World Series, so I'm very excited about that. Also want to make it very clear to you all how much I appreciate you. I appreciate you for caring so much that you're willing to run for elected office and be our leaders. From the outside looking in, it can look so easy. And you hear people all the time, mostly on social media, some of them brave enough to actually come here to say it, but you hear people saying all the time, they should do this or they shouldn't do that. You deal with what I call VUCA, and you'll hear me refer to VUCA a lot. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So I acknowledge that you have very difficult jobs, and I don't pretend to understand the complexity of what's in front of you today. But again, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. Now Pelicans, now baseball. I just moved here 3 weeks ago from Topeka, Kansas, and we had a group of citizens, a group of residents, and a committee that's working very, very hard to land minor league affiliated baseball in the capital city of Kansas. Our citizens there went to sleep every single night dreaming of one day having a minor league team and having baseball in Topeka. They will get it. And I can also promise you this, every city in America that does not have minor league baseball, that does not have baseball, wishes that they did. We spend a lot of time talking about tourism and visitors in this community, and we should, because it's our number one. It drives our economy. But there's other things that we should be thinking about. I will just say I have friends coming here in a couple weeks, and they've kind of listed out everything that they're going to do. They're coming from Kansas, and going to a Pelicans game is on their list. So visitors are definitely visiting it. But I want to bring it from a quality of life standpoint and just say this. Our residents care. And this is definitely a quality of life issue. It is like the library. It is like some of the other things that we make investments in that don't always operate in the black. But when you talk about residents, you're talking about workforce. And when you're talking about workforce, you're talking about companies and you're talking about jobs. I get the privilege of serving on the Regional Economic Development Organization, and I can promise you that this quality of life asset that we have will help us in the future be able to attract companies and attract workers for those companies. So from a workforce, economic development, destination development, and quality of life standpoint, I know this is a difficult decision for you, but I hope we can make this work. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you, sir. Ryan Moore?
Ryan Moore, 5514 Springs Avenue is my residence. I operate the Pelicans Ballpark at 1251 21st Avenue North. First off, thank you to all of you for all the
Ryan,
time.
will you please speak in the mic?
Thank you to all of you for taking the time over the many years that we've had this, and thank you to everyone who came out to show support. In 1999, a group of community leaders came together and decided to invest $11 million in a ballpark to attract Major League Baseball to Myrtle Beach. It's a little bit off, Greg. The city anticipated collecting little to no rent. In fact, the first 3 years, the total rent was less than $10,000. 26 years later, and the cost to retain Major League Baseball, it's $15 million. $5 million out of that 20 is stuff that the ballpark needs and is going to have with or without us. $11 million in 1999 is $22 million today, and that's using actual rate inflation over the last 26 years. That means that the cost of retaining the Pelicans today is less than 70% of what it cost to bring Major League Baseball to Myrtle Beach in 1999. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous.
Okay. Take a
But
deep breath.
instead of little to no rent being paid by the Pelicans, we've committed to pay $25.5 million of rent and over $10 million in ticket surcharges over the life of this new lease. That's over $35 million total from the Pelicans, and that's not including the hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax revenue we pay to the city each and every year. And if you look at it, it's growing fast. In all my years in Myrtle Beach, and I've been here a while now, not a local, I've never once heard someone say it was a mistake to bring the Pelicans. If it was a good idea to spend $11 million in 1999 with no expectation of receiving any rent, then it's got to be a fantastic idea to keep us here in exchange for $35 million in rent and ticket surcharges, plus millions more in tax revenue and the ripple effects in the downstream. Other communities, like Matt mentioned, are spending over hundreds of millions of dollars to build new facilities to attract Major League Baseball. Our community has a chance to spend a fraction of that to retain a tried and true community asset that has been deeply invested in our community for many, many years. Give me a second. Those of you with whom we've met understand that given the amount of rent we'll pay, ticket surcharges we will collect, and tax revenue we directly generate and pay to the city, the cost of retaining the Pelicans is actually substantially more cost-effective than saving $15 million by choosing a non-Major League Baseball affiliated team. We've also shared with you that the Pelicans spend $2.2 million annually in the community, and the Cubs spend over another $730,000. Yes, that represents nearly $3 million a year in annual spending. Impressive sounding number, but what's behind that? Local businesses, small businesses, seamstresses, mom and pop shops, pillars of our community, jobs. It's a local restaurant you go to before or after the game. It's the employees that are getting a tip and hours at those restaurants. Sure, we employ 250 people who would lose their jobs, Kristen, myself, everybody over there. But it's the downstream effect from the loss of the money that we spend throughout the community and dozens of local businesses whose owners and employees will have a devastating effect. By now, we have hope that the good deeds that we've done over the years and our staff does throughout the community are well recognized and appreciated. We hope you recognize today that only the Pelicans will be in a position to invest in modernizing your ballpark in the years ahead. We hope you recognize that this opportunity to develop the adjacent land, which could turn this ballpark deal from a solid one for the city into a cash cow, is most achievable by approving this lease and retaining the Pelicans. But most of all, we hope that you take pride in the fact that the city showed great vision in 1999. It wasn't just a good idea, it was a great idea. And as an organization and an ownership group, which by the way is celebrating 19 years of owning the team this week, a great idea has evolved into a beloved foundational component of and contributor to this community. Losing the Pelicans would be the business version of the film It's a Wonderful Life, but in reverse. Leave you with one more thought. Much has been said in recent weeks about the city losing the county as a partner. And with all due respect, the Pelicans are and have long been the city's primary partner. We pay a supermajority of the operating expenses at the ballpark. We generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual tax revenue that goes directly to the city. And under the proposed lease, we'll be paying a supermajority of the city's debt service, which Fox just outlined. We are the city's exclusive partner with the motivation to make future improvements to modernize the fan experience and keep the ballpark from becoming obsolete. We are the city's partner in being proactive to develop the adjacent land in a manner that benefits the neighborhood, the city, and the community at large, while potentially generating enormous new tax revenue for the city. We are your primary partner, and you can count on us in the decades ahead, just as you've been able to count us on the decades behind us. So please, on behalf of the Pelicans family, my personal family, which wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Pelicans, please seize the opportunity to take a great idea from 1999, make it better today, for tomorrow, for next year, and multiple generations. Thank you, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Ryan. Anyone else signed up, Jim?
I did skip a name earlier that I didn't see. Wendy Evans? No? Okay.
Nope, somebody's standing up.
Hello, Council, Mayor. My name is Wendy Evans. I live at 619 South Palmetto Way, Surfside Beach. I am one of those 250 employees of the Myrtle Beach Pelicans. I have been there for 21 seasons, and I remember seeing, I think, majority of y'all in my suites once or twice. As Ryan had said, his family wouldn't exist if it wasn't the Pelicans. And being there for 21 years, I've seen quite a few of my fellow front office staff grow up and have families of their own. I feel like a proud grandmother. I love them all dearly. So my point here is, it's not about the community to me. It's about family that's behind me. They've been there for me when I went through breast cancer, cervical cancer, everything. They're family. It's not just the community, y'all. Please, please, vote with your heart. Vote to keep the Pelicans here. And I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There's one more. I can't read your last name. Mike P. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mayor, Council, Mike Parado, 5518 North Kings Highway.
thank you.
I come today, I just have a couple of things. One, underneath the Major League Baseball Player Development League, the improvements to the clubhouse, the bathrooms, dining facilities, indoor pitching, indoor batting cages. These amounts add up. I wish that we could find a different way. As Councilman McClure alluded to, it's still a loss. We've been losing $90,000 a year over the past couple of years. We haven't had a full attendance, 100%, at the Pelicans game in a number of years. When we look at where this is going to go as we turn around and add more and add more, the city right now, South Carolina, 46 counties, 271 municipalities. Spartanburg just built a stadium for their team up there while they're continuing, over $100 million. Fayetteville, North Carolina, built a stadium for $40 million. We're sticking $35 million between the 20 and another 15 to renovate a property that we already have. The city of Myrtle Beach stands in debt over $209 million. My grandkids live here. I live here. I mean, when is it going to stop? We have to look at it, and maybe we can find a better way than what we're doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for one more person. Mr. Greenberg?
Thank you for the opportunity. I must say I came here with no expectation of saying anything today, but hearing the commentary and having respect for everyone it is coming from, I thought I would just take one shot with you. I won't try to top anything that Ryan said because I agree with all of it, but I will say this. I see, I hear, I respect, and I understand how everyone is processing the financial information in their own way. And there's, everyone has their own judgment on that, which I respect. Councilman McClure, to your point, as I understand it, and I did my best to zoom in and take a photo of that, but it appears to, I do believe that the tax revenue must be considered, because if we're not here, it goes away. This isn't like if a restaurant on one side of the street goes out of business and people go across the street. This is a unique attraction. And so in fairness, it does seem as though the tax revenue is a reasonable part of determining what the cost is. And when I look at it over the first 5 years, the loss averages a little less than $100,000 a year. And in the next 5 years, just a little bit more than $100,000 a year, but it averages about $100,000 a year. To some, that may be a lot, and to some, that may be a rounding error. Excuse me. I understand that. And to some, the benefits to the community may be enough, and to others, it may need to cash flow, and I respect that too. I know from my experience in the industry that the rent that we've agreed to pay is very high for this industry. But on the other hand, you have no reason to care about that because all you care about are the interests of the city of Myrtle Beach, and I respect that. So what I would say again with no expectation of this moment having arrived is that, Councilman McClure, I understand your concern, and recognizing that there's a deficit that averages in the first 10 years of about $100,000 a year. If it gets this done, even though my peers in the industry already think I'm nuts for having agreed to pay $25.5 million in rent over 30 years and the surcharge, I would volunteer to increase the rent by $100,000 a year those first 10 years and start off at $850,000 if that gets this done. You know, this, as Ryan said, this week is the 19th anniversary of our group purchasing the team. And during this time, we've never asked for anything. And during this time, I've never once even given any consideration of the team playing anywhere else. You know, I mean, I care deeply in a very personal way about the team staying here. And if this is what it takes for the team to stay, I said a year ago at a meeting that I kind of annoyed a number of you. I understand, and in hindsight, I probably would have been annoyed with me too. I said back then that...
But a good job nonetheless.
Well, there's always time to make amends. And so, but I said then that, you know, that it was their survival of the team was paramount to me. This wasn't about, it wasn't about the money. You know, I've always been completely committed in every way to this team staying in Myrtle Beach. And then being immensely proud of the job that our staff has done for all these years to make such an abiding, deep and abiding impact in the city. But I'll say now, if $100,000 a year in rent, those first 10 years added to it, gets this over the top, I raise my hand to volunteer it. I cannot let this team die in Myrtle Beach. Can't do it. And if that's reasonably what it would take to get it done, then count me in.
Thank you, Chuck.
Mayor Bethune,
Yes, Mr. McClure?
as one of the new folks on council, do we just have a counter offer and do we need to discuss it?
We can,
Make a motion.
wait, the attorney and the city manager are having a little sidebar.
Is that how you do it? All right, we're doing this on the fly. Mr. McClure, and to Mr. Greenberg's generous offer, I think we would, if council is willing to accept that, there'd have to be an amendment to the lease to amend the first 10 years from $750,000 to $850,000. Get a second, and then you vote on the lease.
Okay, so I will ask for a motion to amend the second reading of ordinance 2025-38. Mr. McClure, would you like to do that?
So moved.
Second.
Would you please state what you're amending?
I wish I knew. It's complicated. All right. Chuck just threw a high curveball.
Well, we're catching it, so
Yeah,
let's
okay,
go
so
for it.
I'm trying. I moved to amend for the first 10 years to raise the rent from $750 to $850.
750,000, correct?
1,000, yes.
Yes.
City manager almost had a heart attack on that one.
And is there a second for that?
Second.
Motion made from Mr. McClure, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Chuck? Thank you. Very, very much, with all my heart, thank you. Any other discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
By show of hands? All those opposed? Motion carries. We will now vote on the amended motion, which is still the second reading of ordinance 2025-38 with the change of the rent for years 1 through 10 going from $750,000 to $850,000. And again, by a show of hands, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? I did not ask for any discussion. I think we've had enough. Motion does carry. Ladies and gentlemen, please cheer. They say there's no crying in a council meeting, but I don't know. This one kind of feels like it.
Shall we discuss Omaha now? CCU?
Take a few minutes. and let
We're
people-
going to take about a 5-minute break for those of you who do want to leave, and then we'll go back to our regular agenda. Thank you, all of you, for being here.
Gotta get a snack.
Okay.
No, it's all in the tea.
We're almost done.
Oh, no. How do you turn that off?
Where's the city manager?
We can still conduct business without him.
We don't need him.
Quick.
He'll be back. Budget.
Nobody knows where he is?
No. Correct. He's got to come back out.
He might get stuck.
I can
Yeah,
guess
that door is not
That
great.
door is not good.
He's not in that.
If I bring a lock, will somebody put it on? Seriously, that's a dangerous lock in that bathroom. It's terrible.
It's got to meet city code, so it can only, it has to be one that gets stuck.
There you are.
Sorry.
Did you get stuck?
The restrooms were full, and I had to go find an empty one.
All right, we are going to go back to the second reading of ordinance 2025-36.
Second reading of ordinance 2025-36 to levy taxes and establish a municipal budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
Good afternoon. We're talking about a total budget of $360.7 million, a 9.2% increase over the prior year, with 7.2% of that being operating increase. I do have one minor adjustment since first reading, that has to do with encroachment fees. They're actually being lowered in the budget by $100, each soft encroachments and the hard encroachments by $100. Now, Amy's going to come up and talk about the encroachment ordinance following this presentation. Just a few highlights of the budget I'd like to point out. We have no property tax increase included in this budget. The increases that are included are associated with water and sewer at a rate of 9%, solid waste a rate of 3.5%, and stormwater at 22%. Those will equate to about an additional $9.84 per month per residential user. Construction services permits are being adjusted for those above $100,001, and the sign plan checking fee has been capped at $50. Before, it could go up to as much as $250, but now it has been capped at $50. We've also restructured the planning and zoning fees within this ordinance as presented at budget retreat. The general fund is the operating fund for the city. That is where your public safety, your parks and rec, your transportation, all of the work that gets done in the city, that is where the general fund is housed. And I just want to point out that public safety is a focus of this council. 59.6% of that budget is dedicated to public safety. I think it's also important to point out that we have three major funding sources in the general fund. That's property tax, business license, and tourism transfers. Those three funding sources make up 79.7% of the revenue for the general fund, the largest of which is the tourism transfers at 27.3%. Why do I point this out? Because I think it's important to know that those services that we provide that are driven by tourists, that are required by tourists, are paid for with tourism dollars and do not fall on the back of our property taxpayers. Regarding the overall health of the funds at year end, our general fund is projected to have a 23.2% unassigned fund balance at year end. And what that means is that's fund balance that is free for use in the event of emergency, one-time non-recurring expenses. That is the right at the recommended amount that we need to have to carry, we're in an area that is subject to natural disasters. We're in an area that's subject to fluctuations in the economy. So having that fund balance gives us some security and insurance. On top of that, I mentioned the hospitality tax and those funds that are provided by tourism. We also have healthy balances in the hospitality accommodations tax and local accommodations tax funds. And that too is important because in the event of a natural disaster or emergency, if we have to rebuild some of this infrastructure that has made Myrtle Beach what it is, that has allowed us to be this great tourism destination, those funds are available not only for the rebuilding, but to also service the debt on the infrastructure that we have provided for in the past. Our enterprise funds are going to end with a 2.3% growth in net assets. Overall, this is a really good budget. We've not added a lot. We have maintained, and the only major increase in this budget is a 5% increase for our employees. And I think part of that really goes back to public safety. We have to stay competitive in that market, so we cannot not do that at this point.
Thank you, Michelle. May I please have a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2025-36?
So moved.
As presented.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Mr. McClure, I believe. Any discussion from council?
I have a quick question. So, because we are tourism-driven, a lot of our money is coming from tourism dollars. If, by chance, for the next 2 to 3 years, if we see a shortage there, are we still going to be prepared? Are we still going to have enough buffer?
We do. Actually, in the hospitality fee fund, we have coverage of our fund balance is equivalent of 91.2% of our recurring expenses. Our hospitality tax fund, it's equivalent of 79.6% of our recurring expenses. And in our local accommodations tax fund, it is equivalent to 352%. Now, that's a much smaller revenue stream, but 352% of our recurring expenses. We are very secure in those funding sources when it comes to any sort of fluctuations in the market, in the tourism market.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from council? Okay, any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, council.
First reading of ordinance 2025-42.
First reading of ordinance 2025-42 to amend ordinance 91-22 as previously amended by ordinance 92-10, 970225-16, 2002-12, 2006-21, 2013-21 regarding oceanfront encroachment rules and regulations for the city of Myrtle Beach.
All right, so as council knows, the city of Myrtle Beach actually owns a large amount of oceanfront property throughout the city, and it's going to be a strip of property running between usually the first line of residences or commercial properties and the beach. And historically, as you can tell by the title, council has enacted an ordinance that sets forth policies and procedures, rules and regulations for the immediately adjacent property owner to encroach on that city-owned oceanfront property for certain limited purposes. And this is just the latest amendment of that historical ordinance. That we've made a few changes. Probably the most important is we've extended the applicability of the ordinance out until March 30th of 2032. So unless council sees fit to come back and make any changes, in the meantime, this is the version of the ordinance that will govern until March of 2032. We also made the termination dates for all the 3 types of encroachments uniform, and the 3 types are the parking encroachments, what they call hard encroachments, and then non-exclusive use encroachments, things like grass, umbrellas, chairs. As Michelle mentioned, we have moved the annual permit fee from this standalone encroachment ordinance into the budget. So Every year when council sets the budget, one of the things they will also be setting is this encroachment permit fee, rather than having to worry about including it in this ordinance. We've clarified that any hard surface pathways leading from the immediately adjacent private property to the Myrtle Beach Boardwalk will be considered non-exclusive use encroachments and would require a permit under this ordinance. We've expanded on the requirement that the permit holder maintain the city-owned property and anything encroaching on it in a clean, safe, sanitary condition, and require the permit holder to reimburse the city for costs and expenses if the city has to remedy the permit holder's noncompliance with this requirement. We've also required the permit holder to reimburse the city for costs and expenses associated with the permit holder's failure to eliminate any condition that poses a threat to public health or safety on the city-owned property. And then we have kind of tweaked the language of the insurance requirement. We have changed it so that the city manager would have the authority to waive the requirement that the permit holder obtain general liability insurance covering the encroachment onto the city property.
All right, thank you, Amy. May I have a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2025-42?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made from Dr. Connor, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council?
The only thing I would ask, Amy, help me, do we have a way of tracking or keeping up with all these encroachments and insurance and all this stuff?
Absolutely. So planning and zoning, Charles and his staff, I think Ron Gary, they have a list of these they keep, and then annually make sure that the permit fee gets remitted to the city, and then collect the insurance information. I believe the plan going forward is to also kind of tighten up an application for these things, and that's something we're working on to make sure that everything is tight on that end.
Okay. And that's on the ocean side, but let me ask you about other encroachments and stuff. Is
So,
that,
yeah, those aren't covered by this ordinance.
Right,
That's,
right.
yeah, that's just, this is just oceanfront
yeah,
encroachments.
but I'll talk to you later about it.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, okay. I mean, that was a question, years ago, we used
Yeah.
to go through a lot of these things. And
Yes.
I always wondered how we keep up with all that stuff.
We keep up with the ones I think we know about.
I got you.
And we have great staff.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
Amy, let me ask you this question. In your last point, talks about city managers authorized to waive the requirement that a permit holder obtain general liability insurance covering the encroachment onto the city property. Why would we do that?
So the way the current ordinance is drafted, the language is something along the lines of, insurance is required unless you cannot get it at a commercially reasonable rate. And so when we looked at that, we said, what does that even mean? We thought the better alternative would be to let the city manager have the authority to decide if maybe the nature of the encroachment doesn't justify insurance or doesn't justify a whole lot of insurance. But so it still gives a little wiggle room, so to speak, which existed in the prior version of the ordinance. But to me, it's just a little easier for us to deal with that way.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. Excuse me. Resolution 2025-10.
Resolution 2025-10, a resolution of the City of Myrtle Beach to adopt a 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2026 through 2030.
All right, each year, in addition to the budget, we pass a resolution adopting the 5-year capital improvement plan. And perhaps what we should really call it is a resolution acknowledging the 5-year capital improvement plan. Because the adoption of capital improvements actually occurs in the budget ordinance itself. And the only portion of that plan adopted is that first year. What this resolution does is it acknowledges council's commitment to maintaining a capital improvement plan. It shows that there is forethought in the planning of improvements and infrastructure for the city. It's something that is looked at favorably from our rating agencies, and it's something that is encouraged through best practices for governmental accounting. In summary, the first year of the plan includes $60.7 million in projects, and the whole 5 years of the plan is $399.4 million. And this first year of the plan, about 56% of the projects are related to parks, recreation, and sports tourism. That's the biggest portion. 26% are water and sewer, 7% public safety, 4% transportation, 3% parking, 2% general government, 1% stormwater, and 1% solid waste. I would also like to point out with the plan that even though the projects may be in the first year, the funding source depends on whether or not there's a true appropriation for that project. If the funding source involves debt, we have to come back to this council and get permission, go through 2 readings of an ordinance before we issue any debt to finance a project. If the project's funded with a grant, a motion will be brought to the council to determine whether or not they want to accept a grant. The only projects that are automatically funded within the 5-year plan are those that are funded with resources that we currently have on hand.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2025-10?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Chestnut, second from Mr. Smith. Any discussion or questions from council?
Michelle? Yes. On page 3, towards the bottom, there is a section of transportation system infrastructure where the first year we are indicating that we will be spending $2.63 million on road resurfacing, street ends, sidewalks, tree maintenance. If we were to decide that we wanted to spend more on those things, how would we go about doing that?
You could instruct staff to amend the budget to add funds to those projects.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2025-11.
Resolution 2025-11, resolution to amend the schedule of stormwater fees according to the procedure specified in City Code Section 18-27.
This resolution is to adopt the increase in the stormwater fee. The way that the stormwater fee ordinance is written, we must use a resolution. We must increase the fee using a resolution. This is simply the 22% increase that we have talked about all through the budget process. Now, this is the last year of this particular increase with the rate study that we had done. We intend to do another rate study next year. Just letting you know what's going forward in the future.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2025-11?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Mr. McClure, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2025-12.
Resolution 2025-12, approving the Myrtle Beach Downtown Municipal Improvement District Annual Assessment Report for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2026, and other matters related thereto.
In 2022, council voted to put a MID in place downtown to provide additional improvements to that area. The bulk of those improvements involve the additional staff, the ambassadors around the area that clean, maintain, and then offer support to the folks that are there when they have questions or needs. Also providing a higher level of special events in the area to activate the area. Each year, we have to come back to council and adopt that assessment roll. Basically, that reaffirms the parcels that are included in the mid-district, which these are the same, none have been added. And it also affirms the improvements and the budget that is going to be funded through the mid. Now, within the document, the mid-assessment roll, you'll see that the budget is in excess of $2 million. However, what the city will be using the mid funds for will be to pay for the contract with MBDA, which has remained in the same dollar amount as it was last year, $1.8 million. There's been no increase in that contract. The balance of the funds that are talked about through this, in this assessment roll for the budget, are the $250,000 accommodations tax, plus other sponsorships and grants that MBDA are going to get themselves. The assessment in the mid is the 10 mills that it was originally set at when we did it back in 2022.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2025-12?
So moved.
Sorry, something's wrong. Please try again.
So moved again.
Second.
Who made the second? I'm sorry. Motion by Mr. Smith, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council?
Michelle, this is not paid by owner occupants, 4% properties, is that correct?
It is not paid by owner occupants 4% at the time that the mid-district was established.
That's it?
That's it.
Anyone else? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2025-13.
Resolution 2025-13, to adopt the Myrtle Beach Housing and Community Development Annual Action Plan and budget for fiscal year 2025-2026.
Given a quick 2025 Community Development Block Grant update. Just a quick reminder, the city is a subrecipient of Horry County's entitlement, and the large projects have to benefit 51% or more LMI population, and the individual recipient projects like housing rehab, those recipients have to be low to moderate income. This is just a brief overview of last year's fiscal funds, and then this year's proposed. There's a decrease of $4,103 in allocated funds. And then this is the overview of our expenditures and funding allocations since 2021. We have fully expended FY 2021 and 2022 with the design project of Incline and White Street. We have fully expended the housing rehab funds from FY 23 and FY 24. We have expended some of the funds from FY 24 and 25. And this is a project estimate of how much funding we currently have. So a total of $1,250,005 for infrastructure, and then $159,537 for housing rehab. And currently, our projects, infrastructure, Incline and White Street, they're about 85% designed. The current estimate for Incline is $754,263, and White Street is $985,112. That total cost is $1.7 million and some change. This year, the housing rehab project at 881 Canal Street was completed for $93,108. The total scope of work of that project was a new foundation, new windows, new doors, new kitchen, new bathroom, new HVAC, and new hot water tank. Going forward, we are going to slim that cost down, smaller, high-benefit projects, ADA compliance, weatherization, new doors, new windows, or new roof. So slim that down a lot. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Brooke. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2025-13?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Chestnut, second for Mr. Smith. Any discussion or questions from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. The next two items, Resolution 2025-14 and Resolution 2025-15, I will recuse myself from because I am the property owner and the owner of BJ Investments. However, at the end of the meeting, I will be making a statement about these items. So I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Louder.
Question before you read them out. Can we vote on both of these at the same time or separate?
Do you need separate discussion?
If not, it's no problem, I'm just asking that question. Okay,
Separately, Mr. Louder. Thank you.
all right. Madam Clerk?
Resolution 2025-14 is authorizing the execution of a drainage easement on 1.45 acres in the A&I district, PIN number 444-0101-0065, to be used as stormwater retention.
Thank you. As Councilman Louder pointed out, these two are related items, so I'm going to discuss both of them together. We can see where that takes us, and we can. I think we will need to vote on them separately. So, just for clarification and transparency, what you have before you is an easement, a permanent easement for stormwater facilities on a piece of property and an option to purchase the same piece of property. I'm going to start with the easement just because that is simpler and more straightforward. We've been working with the mayor for a good while now to finalize various details of the transaction, but we've also been spending a significant amount of time doing the engineering and design of the stormwater facilities. We've been working with Santee Cooper to work around their transmission assets in that same area. So there is a portion of this property that's covered by electricity easement, so we've had to work through that. And candidly, we've now done that, and we've worked ourselves far enough into the process where our contractor that's already doing the infrastructure project in the A&I district is ready to proceed, and he's ready to begin the work on that. So we have approached this with an easement and an option so that we can begin the work as soon as we execute the easement, and it will not create a delay in the infrastructure project, which, as we all know, time is money. So again, we have opted to proceed this way. I can answer questions on the easement, or we can save all of that to the end. All right.
Get a
hearing none-
motion. Can we get a motion in a second, first, please? Do we have a motion and a second on Resolution 2025-14?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hatley and second by Ms. Connor.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to talk a little bit about the option agreement. Before I do that, there's been... Yes,
Ron,
sir.
excuse me. Didn't you have a question, Greg? Nope. Okay, my bad. All right, go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. Before I get into the details of the agreement, I think we need to sort of take a step back in time a little bit. There have been a number of questions over the weekend and into yesterday, sort of how we got here. So I wanted to walk through and remind council and the general public sort of how we got to this point with the properties. If you go back, this property in question has been in play, for the lack of a better term, since 2016, 2017. In 2016, I say the mayor, but she was not mayor at the time. and I have a hard time calling her Brenda. So the mayor at the time approached the city about acquiring a piece of property, the same exact piece of property that is in question today. She approached us or approached the city about acquiring that property in order to accommodate future plans for her property, future growth plans. If you look at property transactions, BJ Investments made a number of acquisitions in 2016 surrounding the Better Brands footprint in order to accommodate future growth. This parcel is adjacent to her other parcels, and she approached the city about acquiring that. The city's response was we were more interested in exchanging like properties, maintaining the same amount of property in the area. So we identified at that point 2 pieces of property owned by the Chapin Company that are south of Jackson and just north of the train depot. You can see them on this map here. They're marked in blue. So we identified those properties. BJ Investments then went out and acquired those properties. And I think you can see, here's part of the confusion that I think popped up over the weekend. If you look at the 2 properties on the left, those are the 2 properties that we identified to BJ Investments. They then went out and acquired those properties, and you can see in the tax records, I can't read it from here, I think it's September 30th of 2016, BJ Investments acquired both pieces of property for $231,775. I've got that sort of burnt into my memory, but I can't read it. My eyes are getting bad, but I think that is the right number up there. So you'll see that in September of 2016, BJ Investments bought the property. I'm going to come to 2017 in just a minute. We then, in May of 16, or just prior to that, in May of 16, you can look at a memorandum of understanding between the City of Myrtle Beach and BJ Investments on May 24th of 16. On May the 16th, we passed a resolution, or passed an ordinance rather, 2016-23, that outlined the details of the transaction. The transaction then played out as those documents contemplated, and so all of that is fine. I think part of the confusion is how it shows up in GIS. The GIS record shows that she did, in fact, acquire the property in September of 16 for $231,000, but you then see a series of $5 transactions. But if you'll notice on all 3 of those parcels, there's a transaction date of February 28th of 17, where we transferred a piece of property to her. She transferred 2 pieces of property to us, and obviously these are very in close proximity. They are of similar size, similar location, and so they are comparable property. So essentially in 2016 and 2017, the city committed to supporting the investment plans of Better Brands and BJ Investments. We did so in a property swap transaction where we identified property, she went out and then acquired that property and then transferred that property to the city. Everybody tracking?
So
far.
actually,
Okay.
you continue to say she purchased the property for $231,000, but she actually purchased 2 pieces of property, both around the $230,000.
Well, and that's another confusing point on
true?
GIS. When you acquire a combination of parcels, it shows the total purchase price, regardless of how much you paid for that specific piece. I mean, if you go back and look at some of the transactions there are a lot of instances where somebody will buy a portfolio of property, shows up as a single transaction and a single property. So sometimes if you just look at GIS, it gives you a very distorted value on that property. That makes sense.
So we're saying that the total purchase price for the 2 properties, round figures, was about $231,000.
It was
in total.
it was $231,775 in 2016. So obviously those are 2016.
But that's what it was then.
Correct.
Okay.
So fast forward to 2018, we began the efforts of downtown revitalization. We engage Benchmark Planning and LS3P, the architect firm. They began to envision the downtown master plan, what we now know and refer to as the A&I district, the Arts Innovation District. During that process, from 2018 to 2020, our consultants and engineers and architects began reimagining the Arts Innovation District, reimagining the downtown. They identified three pieces of property or three particular areas where they recommended we invest in new stormwater facilities. Two of those have now been constructed. If you look at the new pond at Shelley Park and Highway 501, and you look at the new ponds at 8th Avenue, Alder, Balsam, those are two of the three stormwater facilities that were identified in between 2018 and 2020 as future stormwater. The third pond that we were recommended to build is the one that will go on this property. And again, we've now built two of the three. It's time to build the third one, and the contractor is waiting on us to do so.
Ryan, who did you say identified those properties?
Benchmark Planning, Bolton and Meek Engineers, LS3P. I mean, it's more of a collaborative process, but our professional contractor. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And again, stormwater facilities, you can't build stormwater facilities too far away from an impacted area. You have to be able to capture and trap stormwater that falls onto a piece of property when it has to be proximate to whatever the development is. All three of these ponds were located because of the natural flow of stormwater and because of the proposed development that was supposed to occur or planned to occur in that area. If you imagine, or if you can think of the Arts Innovation District plan, you know that right there at 9th Avenue and Oak, we show in the advanced master plan, there's a site there where we have a proposed library. There's a site there where we have a proposed children's museum. Both of those have apartments above. We imagine new surface parking lots in those areas. All of that requires stormwater management. All three of these ponds working as a system manage all of that development. So just to make that point. During that 2-year process from 2018 to 2019 or 2020, the consultants reapproached the mayor at that time and identified that the engineers had identified that piece of property as the ideal location for stormwater. At that point, she agreed to sell that property back to us if and when the time came where we actually were executing on the plan and building the stuff. She agreed to sell it back to us for market value, which is where we are today. We have gotten to that point in the process where we are ready to build that pond. We have come to terms, so to speak, with BJ Investments. We did do an appraisal in September. We had it updated in April. The appraised value for the property is $650,000. It's important to note 2 of the 4 comparable sales used in that appraisal are purchases where we bought property from someone else. One of the comparables is actually the property that we bought for stormwater purposes at 8th Avenue and Alder and Balsam. So it's a very comparable sale. One of the other comparables of a city purchase was the property that we bought, the little triangular piece, if you recall, at the intersection of 6th Avenue, Oak, and Maple. That piece, the appraiser also noted that. So what we're paying in this transaction is very comparable to what we have paid in those 2 prior transactions, plus what the other 2 comparables. All of it is consistent and reflect the true market value. One of the things that slowed this process down a little bit is that the mayor did not want to have an outright sale of the property. It was her intention to donate the proceeds of the property. The original plan and what you have in front of you contemplates that we would buy the property for $655,000. At the closing of that transaction, that $650,000 in proceeds would go to a nonprofit that would support a local nonprofit, but would also contribute funds back toward paying down the cost or the debt associated with the downtown theater. That's where we were Friday afternoon. I think there are some moving parts, and this is complex transaction. There are a lot of moving parts in this transaction that I think has confused some folks and created some misunderstandings and misinterpretations. I will defer to, I think Mr. Guyton is here to speak on behalf of the property owner, and I'll let him talk about a little bit of what has happened since we published the agenda on Friday, and then I'll come back up and we'll talk about it in more detail.
But Brian, just real quick, one question, just to, like you said, a lot of moving parts.
Yes.
In the beginning, right, we had the one property we're currently talking about right now and these two other properties that BJ Investment bought.
Correct.
And all we did was switch.
Correct.
And so that would be the reason you see a $5 recording fee or whatever. So
it was a simple
all
property
things being equal, they were equivalent switches.
Correct. I mean, yeah, you can, I mean, and all of the dates on GIS line up with that. If you dig into the deed work more, it points to that.
That's way above my stuff. But,
Understood.
But if you did anything more than the most basic research, you would have figured out that happened.
Yes, but I mean, it's also not common practice for folks to do that. They see that number there and they don't necessarily understand the intricacies there. And before I hand it over to Mr. Guyton, I am happy to answer any more questions if you have them for me at this point. Sorry, I just skipped right ahead to that.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, council. As you know, most of the time when I appear before you, I'm here asking for something. This is one of the few times I'm not doing that. I wish I could elicit the passion that the Pelicans issue did. Unfortunately, most of the things I talk about elicit the passion that Michelle's presentation elicits. So I would love to change that. I don't think that's going to happen soon. I'll go ahead and address a couple of things. The mayor always had three things that she was trying to accomplish with this property. One was the city had recognized that stormwater was going to be an issue in this area, so we were trying to provide for that. She also, as you know, finds the downtown theater near and dear to her heart, so she wanted to make an additional donation over what she had already done. And we thought the best way to do that was by donating the property to a qualified 501c3. So there was never a scenario where the city was going to pay any proceeds to the mayor. It was always going to those charities. And I think what we've realized since Friday is that does create some complications in terms of people understanding what's going on. So what we've decided to do, and I think the mayor will confirm this when she comes back out, is rather than make that restricted gift to a 501c3, which would then benefit as well as the downtown theater and the city benefit by way of the storm drainage easement, instead we'll donate that property directly to the city, which will make it more of a general fund issue for the city, and you all will decide who benefits from that, but it won't be the two 501c3 or charitable entities that she intended to donate property to. So hopefully that clarifies that a little bit. I did want to say one thing that might help on the exchange of deeds. In South Carolina, you're not required to put the purchase price in a deed, but what you are required to do is attach an affidavit of consideration. That's important for the county because that's how the Register of Deeds collects their, what we used to call deed stamps. Now it's transfer taxes. So if you look at both of those deeds, what you'll see is they both have the same consideration paid, which is the $231,000, and both parties paid the same amount of deed stamps or transfer fees. So it was a transfer of equal property. So that kind of brings us to where we are now. As Brian said, the resolution anticipated that the city would buy the property. That was never the intent of the property owner. The intent was always to make a contribution, preferably to a charitable entity, but given the controversy that trying to understand these transactions are, we believe it's better to just contribute it directly to the city, and then you'll go from there on who benefits within the city structures for that. Happy to answer any questions, anything you aren't clear about, anything I can help with.
So one question. In this transaction, the city is going to receive this property at zero cost.
Correct.
Total donation to the city.
Correct. So when we created that option, the reason was that the drainage easement was going in place first. When the property was transferred, we didn't want to stop the ability of the city to acquire the property later, so that option would have preserved that ability on the city's part. Now with a direct donation to the city, there's no need for the option. The option essentially goes away.
Thank you, Shep.
Yes, sir.
Any question from council for Shep?
And again, just a simple, and Shep's 100% right, but just to clarify, what was contemplated on Friday was, Councilman Louder, to your point, we were going to have to pay for the property. Now we don't pay anything, but the anticipation was at closing, the mayor would have, well, the closing attorney at that point would have contributed the funds out to whomever she directed based on the option agreement. That's the only part that really changed. So there's, at this point, again, no funds will take place. It will just be a simple transfer of the property. That said, the resolution that you have in front of you determines or lists a specific price that we will be willing to pay for this property. If we decide to go forward, and if you are agreeable, the resolution would need to be amended to reflect this as a charitable gift that we are accepting. And so I think in the resolution you have under the toward the very bottom there where it lists the price and the PIN number, we would need to make an amendment to accept that as a charitable contribution in lieu of any payment. And Mr. Guyton has edited the option agreement to provide the option that the money be donated. So you can still approve both items today. The easement goes unchanged, but the resolution and the reference to the option agreement, that resolution would need to be amended to reflect the charitable contribution.
Let's vote on one item at a time. So we'll vote on resolution 2025-14. We have a motion and a second right now. Is there any further questions or comments from anybody on council? Any comments or questions from anyone from the public? Hearing none, all in favor of resolution 2025-14, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Can I interrupt? Are we approving it as is, or are we going to amend it?
This is the easement.
Oh, that's the easement. My
That's the
apologies.
easement.
My apologies.
Okay. All right, next item is 2025-15.
Resolution 2025-15, authorizing the purchase of 1.45 acres in the A&I district, PIN number 44401010065, to be used as stormwater retention.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this by adding on line 38 of page 1, after the purchase price, the appraised value of $650,000, to add to be accepted as a donation to the city of Myrtle Beach.
Second.
Just a question, Greg, on that. Mr. Attorney, I think we have to have a motion and a second on the original motion first, and then do an amendment on that particular motion. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Greg, if you want to make a motion and someone second on the current resolution as is, and then we can get a motion and a second for the amendment.
Correct.
So, is there a motion and a second for resolution 2025-15 as is right now? Would be correct to do that.
So moved.
Second.
And then we have a first and a second on resolution 2025-15. Any comment?
I'd like to make a motion to amend line 38, after it says appraised value of $650,000, to add to be accepted as a donation to the city of Myrtle Beach.
Second.
We have a motion and second to amend as stated by Greg. Is there any comments?
Sure.
Any comments from the public?
Well, I've got some comments.
Okay, Greg.
So, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Have we purchased land in the area before?
Yes, sir.
And how did we come to the value of the land that we purchased in the area before?
Same, appraised value. Is that the question?
That was a question, yes. So we purchased it at the appraised value.
Correct.
Now, as a city council, we have the power to take property, is that correct?
You do, yes, sir.
And if we need it for a public purpose, we would be allowed to take a property, but we have to pay for that property, is that correct?
Yeah, you would still have to pay fair market value.
So we would have to pay the appraised value.
Yes, I mean, not to chase that rabbit, but yes, but when you look at a condemnation appraisal, they also take into consideration essentially opportunity cost and highest and best use. That isn't factored into the $650,000 appraisal. I think the economic impact of the opportunity cost would probably be substantially north of what the traditional appraised value is in a traditional appraisal. A condemnation appraisal is more
Takes into account that they don't really want to sell it.
forward, yeah, it's more forward-looking than a traditional fair market appraisal, but yes, we would have an appraisal done.
And you said earlier that it was not the city that identified this parcel, it was the professional engineers that identified that this would be a good spot.
Correct.
And they did that after the property swap.
Correct.
And the property swap happened with no knowledge of this coming forward, and it happened when the current mayor was not the mayor.
Correct, all correct. I had to follow you there, but yes, that's correct.
So did anyone else donate their land?
No, but I'd be okay if this was a new precedent.
Or are we setting a precedent? If we need land, is someone in the future going to be forced to donate it?
We will always accept donations. We don't expect it, but we would accept it.
So would we say that it was very generous of BJ Investments to donate this land? And it was even very generous of BJ Investments to donate the land to a 501c3 that we would then buy it from, because we need the land. And had it not been BJ Investments, we would be paying for it.
I think it is fair to, I think that is fair to say, yes.
Well, I'm not sure this is a precedent. Didn't, a while back, Mr. Robert Shelley donate some land for a park?
Well, we've had folks donate property over, I think, I can't remember how long it was, but within the last year and a half, 2 years, we've had another estate contribute a piece of property on the east side of Kings on the south end. So we accepted that donation a while back, but that has certainly not been the norm.
And just to clarify, and just to make sure our audience and the public understands that the amendment that we have on the first and second on right now, there's no doubt about it, no question about it, that we're receiving this as a total donation for $0.
Yes.
The value is $650,000.
Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Who did the
Which was
appraisal, by
valued
the
at $230,775 in 2017.
In 2017, yes.
Why is it so much more?
I think you could argue because of what we're doing downtown has led to some property appreciation. I mean, obviously, there's 10 years that has passed, but we've considered to make we've continued to make investments in downtown, and I think we're starting to see some of the property appreciation.
And who did the appraisal? Who was the appraiser?
Integra Realty Solutions, they're a commercial real estate group out of Columbia.
Do we use them on a regular basis, or?
We have used them a number of times before. Yeah.
And have we, other than the minor cost, ever thought about getting 2 appraisals?
We haven't gotten 2 appraisals since I've been here. I mean, we certainly could. If there have been a number of occasions where we've gotten appraisals back and there seemed to be some inconsistencies with the comparables used or something that just didn't seem to be comparable, And we've gone back and challenged the appraiser to make sure that we were comparing apples and apples. But we've never gone, well, I won't say never. In recent history, we have not gotten multiple appraisals.
Right. If you look at the appraised value, that's going to come out to about, what, $450,000 an acre, which
Roughly.
I could see that on Oak Street, but I'm not sure Jackson Street would, that it would be, have that amount of value. Now, I understand what you're saying. There's a lot of work being done down there. Stormwater ponds, we've got to have all that kind of stuff, but it seems like a lot of money for a stormwater pond.
Well,
Am I just not understanding it?
I don't, well, for starters, it is comparable to the property we acquired at 8th and Alder that is now a stormwater pond. And I think we talked about it a little bit a second ago. The appraiser is tasked with looking at a piece of property and appraising it based off of highest and best use. Whether a new property owner uses it for the highest and best use it's a separate conversation. I would say we have paid similar prices for stormwater facilities in the past 2 or 3 years. We've got the good fortune in this case of not actually having to pay anything for the property, and so the valuation is less consequential, I would say. I still support that the valuation is accurate, but fortunately,
Someone else might pay.
it's higher than zero.
Right, so using it for a stormwater pond is valuable to the city of Myrtle Beach, and it's valuable to the property owners that are going to be, well, us, the city of Myrtle Beach that's going to be developing property. It is not valuable for a private resident to buy a property and turn it into a stormwater pond just because they
right.
want to turn it into a stormwater pond.
That is
They would
correct.
use it to build an office building or a warehouse or something that generates income,
Yes,
which creates the value in the land.
correct.
Although based on the rain I hear, we may have.
Okay, any other?
All of our
Good thing
stormwater
we're getting a
ponds are currently
stormwater pond.
full.
Any other comments or questions about the proposed amendment? Any comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment to 2025-15 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Now, we'll go back and vote on the original motion, the original resolution for 2025-15 as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. All that just to get free land. Can't give away stuff no more. That's a shame.
All right, motion 2025-45.
Motion 2025-45 to designate the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce as the organization to manage and direct the expenditure of tourism and promotion funds for the 2025-26 fiscal year per South Carolina Code Section 6-4-10-3, accommodations tax revenues.
This is just so simple. We do this annually, designating the 30% as the clerk read through the Chamber of Commerce for accommodations tax.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made from Mr. Smith, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion 2025-46.
Motion 2025-46 to declare certain vehicles abandoned or derelict pursuant to the authority of Article 41 of Title 56, South Carolina Code of Laws, 2001.
Okay, is there anyone here who represents any of these vehicles? Okay, may I please have a motion to declare?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any non-agenda items from the public?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, do we have any communications from council? All right, well, I'll go. And if you'll just bear with me, please, ladies and gentlemen. This shirt that I'm wearing today is the same shirt that I wore the night that I was elected in 2017. It's not by accident that I wore it today. When I ran for mayor in 2017, I promised this community, our residents, our businesses, that I would act accordingly by my faith first, with integrity, with honesty, and with transparency. I have spent my entire adult life giving back to this community in one way or another. I was raised to serve and give back to this community. That's the way my family always managed things. That's the way I was taught to manage things. I have done so with my heart and with passion because I love this community. I love serving with this council. I love serving the city of Myrtle Beach. I took an oath in January of 2018 to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. I have upheld that oath each and every day, and not once have I asked for anything in return. Do I get paid to do this job? Yes, I do. Do I get paid for the hours that I put into this job? No, I do not. My husband is here today, and he will tell you I work at least 60 hours a week, at least. I have never asked the city to pay for any of my out-of-town city-related travel. They do not pay for my hotel rooms. They do not pay for my meals. They do not pay for my conferences or my airfare. I pay for it all by myself. I use the salary that I get from this city to give back to multiple charitable organizations, including our own fire department and Myrtle Beach Police Department. It is so unfair that some in the media chose to look at an agenda and make assumptions that something underhanded or shady or crooked was taking place, when all along my only intent was to give something back for public good for this entire community. So to those who tried to make this look shady and underhanded and crooked, shame on you. Shame on you for not doing your homework to properly look into this situation and find out exactly what you were talking about. We all know that this is an election year. That's not why I'm saying this. I'm saying this to prove a point. I am here for a reason. And I will say to you again, that reason is to serve with a dedicated servant's heart to this city. And I hope that I will be able to continue to serve. And if that is not the will of this community, then so be it. I will find another way to serve. But I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to work with you on this. Brian will tell you I was not an easy person to work with over the last few years. I did not want to give up almost 1.5 acres of my property for stormwater. Okay, this is property that I could have developed. This is property that is sitting in the middle of a large parcel that now makes that parcel limited to what I can do with it. So this was done out of goodness. not out of crookedness. And I just want to make that clear. So thank you. With that, I will ask if there is a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Any discussion from council?
No.
Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Louder and Chestnut.